Hello, everybody, and welcome to day 20 and chapter 20 of the book of Psalms. My name is Meg, and if you're just joining me, I have invited you into my personal devotional time where I am looking at one psalm every single day. Today is our 20th day, so we're going to hop right into chapter 20. And our theme for today is a prayer for victory in battle. Such a prayer can help us prepare for any great challenge. David knew that trust should be placed in the Lord more than human power. Our author is David, and it is believed that the events of 2 Samuel chapter 10 may have prompted this prayer. So I'm going to jump right in to verse 1, which says, "In times of trouble, may the Lord answer your cry. May the name of the Lord of Jacob keep you safe from all harm. May he send you help from his sanctuary and strengthen you from Jerusalem. May he remember all of your gifts and look favorably on your burnt offerings. May he grant your heart's desires and make all of your plans succeed. May we shout for joy when we hear of your victory and raise a victory banner in the name of our God. May the Lord answer all of your prayers. Now I know that the Lord rescues his anointed king. He will answer him from his holy heaven and rescue him by his great power. Some nations boast of their chariots and horses, but we boast in the name of the Lord our God. Those nations will fall down and collapse, but we rise up and stand firm. Give victory to our King, O Lord. Answer our cry for help." Okay, so let's talk about 2 Samuel chapter 10 before we jump right into this psalm. It's important to take this psalm in context, and it's one of the ones that we have great context for, so I'm really excited. So in 2 Samuel chapter 10, there is a war going on between David and the Ammonites, and David wins. But before the war starts, what happens is the Ammonite king dies. And so David feels empathy towards them. David, as you know, is a man after God's own heart and has empathy towards these people. He understands what it's like to lose people, so he sends people to comfort them. And so we see this here where it says, "I will show kindness to Hanun, the son of Nahash, as his father showed kindness to me." So David's kindness it is a place of genuine kindness. He knows what it's like, so he's sending servants to comfort. Now, this new king does not believe that David is doing this out of the kindness of his heart. And he actually says, "Do you think that David really honors your father because he has sent comforters to you? Has David not rather sent his servants to you to search the city, to spy it out, and to overthrow it?" Therefore Hanun took David's servants, shaved off half of their beards, cut off their garments in the middle at their buttocks, and sent them away. When they told David, he sent to meet them because the men were greatly ashamed. And the king said, "Wait at Jericho until your beards have grown and then return." So this is done as a way of humiliation, okay? But this also shows the character of Hanun. So Hanun said this to the king as a way to put doubt into David's true intentions, but also because a liar tends to think other people are lying. So we know that Hanun is genuinely suspecting that David is doing this, and it's actually a reflection of himself. It's a reflection of what he would do in this situation. And so as a result, he is thinking that David is a liar. So what does he do? He shaves off his beards, he cuts off their garments in the middle, and this was a disgraceful insult to them. It is actually one of the greatest insults that could have been offered to them. And so one of my commentaries says here, in Israelite culture, all men wore full beards. It was a sign of maturity and authority. To forcibly shaven was embarrassing enough, but these men were also left half naked. So this was done to insult and humiliate. My commentary further says, because Hanun listened to the wrong advice, he suspected the motives of the ambassadors and humiliated them. Then he realized that David was angry and immediately marshaled his forces for battle. Hanun should have thought, though, the advice more carefully, but even if he had not, he should have tried to negotiate with David. Instead, he refused to admit any fault and got ready for war. Often we respond angrily and defensively rather than admitting our mistakes. apologizing and trying to diffuse the other person's anger instead of fighting. We should always try to seek peace. And so as a result, this is now causing a battle between the Ammonites and Israel. And so to insult the ambassador is to insult a king. Remember, when you are an ambassador of someone, you are their representative. This is important for us to remember because we are representatives of Christ. We are Christ's ambassadors. We are the ambassadors of Christ. So just as these people were ambassadors of David and represented David in this situation, in our everyday lives, we are ambassadors of Christ, which means how we treat people, how we act, what we are doing is a representation of Jesus in this world. So they did not just insult these people, but they were insulting David. So as a result, I'm going to read this exactly. When the people of Ammon saw that they had made themselves repulsive to David, the people of Ammon sent out and hired Syrians of Beth Rehob and Syrians of Zobah, 20,000 foot soldiers, and from the king of Maacah, 1,000 men. So they made themselves repulsive to Israel. What did they do? Hire people to go attack them. Instead of being like, I am sorry, I messed up, they went to the most extreme case, right? They made a mistake. They made someone else angry. And instead of stopping, apologizing, and taking accountability, right? There is a psalm, not a psalm, but there's a proverb that talks about that we shouldn't go to bed angry because it leaves a foothold for the devil. Here's a prime example of this, right? Instead of saying, oh my gosh, I am sorry, I got bad advice, I realized that this was a place of genuine loving concern, I was wrong and should not have humiliated you and your ambassadors, went and decided to hire a bunch of people to go attack David. Now, this was a bad move on their part because remember, David is anointed. David is the one that God has chosen, and David is a man after his own heart. So, we look here and we see the importance of being right with God. I'm going to read this paragraph right here. When David heard what was happening, he mobilized all Israel, crossed the Jordan River, and led the army to Helam. The Arameans positioned themselves in battle formation and fought against David, but against the Arameans fled from the Israelites. This time, David's forces killed 700 charioteers, 40,000 foot soldiers, including Shobak, the commander of the army. When all the kings allied with Hadaezer saw that they had been defeated by Israel, they surrendered to Israel and they became their subjects. After that, the Arameans were afraid to help the Ammonites. So, cue this psalm. Okay, now we're back here. We're at Psalm 20. I'm just gonna flip back there. And this is David no longer trusting in himself. He's not trusting in what's going on around him. He's fully trusting in God. And honestly, this reminds me way back when we first met him with Goliath. And the reason why it reminds me of it is he, again, is facing false accusations. This is a common theme that we are seeing all the time for David, right? All the time. Being seen as not good enough, being seen as an enemy when he's not an enemy, when he's genuinely trying to do good and his heart is genuinely in the right place, people are making all these false accusations against him. I mean, if we really want to think about it, when Samuel went to his father's house to find the king, his dad didn't even bring him in from the field. And was like, just not going to consider David. I mean, we think about that. So let's think all the way back to David and Goliath, right? Where odds in the natural were stacked up against him. He did not even wear the armor of the king. Why? He did not wear the armor of the king because he was not comfortable in that. 1, and 2, then his faith would have been in this armor, in this natural source of protection, and not in the power of God. But instead, he was like, no, God has delivered me, and listed all the ways God had delivered him. All the ways in his day-to-day life when he was out in the field that God protected him. The way he protected the sheep. The way he was able to kill all the wild animals that were coming after the sheep. And he's like, I don't need this earthly garment to protect me. I have God. So he goes and he defeats Goliath. Now, in the natural, this seems like a pretty frustrating situation. And honestly, David has lived this like, it feels like a million times at this point, right? And he's like, I heard that you're suffering. I heard that you're in pain. I am here to try to offer condolences. And they accuse him of lying. They accuse him of spying. They accuse him of trying to have ulterior motives when he does not. They listen to the lies. They shame him. And then they realize they messed up. And instead of just coming clean and being like, I am sorry, I messed up, what do? They make it way worse. By doing what? They gather all these men and go and attack David. And David's like, God is on my side. And he wins. And now we have Psalm 20. A song of victory. In my times of trouble, may the Lord answer your cry. May the name of God of Jacob keep you safe from all harm. May he send you help from his sanctuary and strengthen you from Jerusalem. I love this. I love this. Because this is something that we can pray over ourselves, okay? Praying through the Psalms is so important. Yes, we need to be praying. We need to take a page out of David's book and just go and pour ourselves out to the Lord. But we can also take these Psalms and we can pray through them and make them our own. For example, I might say, in my time of trouble, Lord, hear me and answer my cry. May the name of God and of Jacob keep me safe from all harm. Lord, please send help from your sanctuary and strengthen me from Jerusalem. Lord, remember all my gifts and look favorably upon them. Now I'm making it personal. Now I'm going through it. And you know what? Sometimes when we're going through it, sometimes when we're about to face a hard situation, and it may not be a bunch of people trying to kill us. It may be a hard situation at work. It might be a hard conversation we're about to have with a friend. It may be a hard conversation we have to have with a boss. It may be just a difficult situation with our family. We can take this and pray this over ourselves. We can just go and just read it over ourselves. And what I love about this is that it also talks about celebrating each other's victories. As Christ's body, we need to be unified. And so it says right here, may we shout for joy when we hear of your victory and raise a victory banner in the name of our God. So not only is he giving God the glory for everything, but he is excited to worship God for the victories happening in other people's lives. And I was just having a conversation with my friend about this today. The importance of having unity in the body, the importance of building each other up, encouraging one another, the importance of being with one another, because the devil comes around to see whom he can devour. And if you're by yourself, you're much easier to devour. So it's important that we are encouraging. We can encourage each other with these Psalms. We can send this Psalm in encouragement. And so my biggest takeaway from this is to continuously be praying over every situation. And when I find myself tempted to feel that I have to burden myself with finding all the answers, when I feel like I have to burden myself with figuring out how to make everything work all the time, or trying to make everything happen in a certain way, a certain timeline, just remembering to give it to God, to allow him to take over, and remember that he is the one who's going to give me the wisdom, and I can unburden myself from that. And now all of a sudden I'm walking in the joy of the Lord, because that is where my strength is found. So tomorrow is Psalm 21, and our theme is praising God after victory in battle. Openly thanking God for his help honors him, while also reminding us and others that we can trust him. See you guys tomorrow.